So I'm so thrilled to welcome my guest, Wendy Valentine, today, and cannot wait. You are going to love her story. Hello, Wendy.
Hello, Michelle. It's Michelle, right? Oh, it's Mary
Yes.
Michelle.
No, just Michelle. Thank
Okay,
you.
good.
Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't have my glasses on. You can tell I'm in midlife. I'm like, let me get my reading glasses.
Uh,
It is great to be here, and hopefully, I will bring so much visibility to everyone here today and help you feel seen and heard and special because you definitely are.
well, I am so excited to chat with you. I've been following you for a little while, and when I first saw you, I thought, gosh, you and I have so much great synergy.
Yes.
And our stories are vastly different. How we work with our clients is vastly different, but I just feel that our message is so similar. But
Yeah.
one thing that you shared with me on the pod or before we got started is that you started being a pastry chef.
Oh gosh, yeah, that goes way back. I'm a Jill of all trades, so I have lots of gifts and talents. And it just took me, 50 plus years to figure out exactly what I wanted to do with my life. But yes, I actually trained at Le Cordon Bleu in Paris, France, and it was such an amazing experience. Absolutely loved it. And now I live on the island of Madeira, Portugal. So I'm a hop, skip, and jump away. So you and I definitely will have to get together somewhere over on this side of the pond. We can get together, have a little
Definitely.
retreat. I'll bring the pastries. Yeah. You
Yes.
bring the love. Yes.
Yes.
So yes, I can definitely share more of my breakdown to breakthrough story, which kind of brings me, to where I'm at today. So I'm 53 now, about the age of 46. It's like right when, when you're really learning about midlife at that point, you're like, oh, that term midlife crisis, which I don't believe in anymore. I believe it's a midlife catalyst for sure. But age of 46, I was living in Virginia at the time. I was going through my second divorce. It was an empty nester, so the house was quiet and eerie. And I was unemployed, 150 grand in debt. I was suffering from extreme chronic illness, black mold toxicity, chronic Lyme disease. You're familiar with that kind of lingo since you're on the East Coast. And then
Yes.
just to top off the whole mess, within about 6 weeks, my dog died, my cat died, and then my brother died.
Oh my
So,
goodness.
yeah,
Wow.
midlife hit me so hard,
Hmm.
so unexpected. And I found myself at this point where I thought, oh my gosh, my whole life has unraveled. Everything has completely deconstructed, and I'm left with nothing. So I thought. And I knew that I had to do something. And I'll admit, it kind of scared me thinking, like, oh my gosh, 50's coming up.
Hmm.
And what am I doing with my life? And I can remember looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, I have absolutely no idea who you are. And then I had this wonderful, serendipitous, synchronistic moment where, and now most people might see God in a moment like this or angels, but I actually saw an RV. And I always had this dream of driving an RV across the country. And I thought to myself, wouldn't that be cool if I could actually make that dream come true? And now, the kids were out of the house. I didn't have anyone I needed to ask, hey, do you want to do this or do that? I was like, I could actually make this happen.
Hmm.
And I really tried this dream on for size, if you will, pun intended, just for your show. I do recommend trying your dreams on for size. Just have fun with them. But I did, and I imagined this sleek and sexy black and blue RV with leather cushions and navy blue Pottery Barn pillows and auto leveling jacks and a diesel engine. I mean, I literally sat there where before I was just bawling my eyes out. And I sat there and I imagined this RV. But here's the coolest part of the whole dream. It wasn't so much the RV I was excited about or driving off into the Sedona sunset, although amazing. It was the woman in the driver's seat. I get goosebumps every time when I say that because I imagine this woman that was happy, healthy, financially free, a woman that finally literally put herself in the driver's seat of her life, took the steering wheel, and she followed her dream of becoming an author and an inspirational speaker and having her own show. That is what I was excited about, was that woman sitting in the driver's seat, the woman that I could become. Now, you and I talked about this a little bit before we hit record, but we all have that inner critic that is so annoying. And if you think about it, this, and I'm tapping on the top of my head, this is either your best friend or it's your worst enemy, and you are the one that gets to decide, right?
Hmm.
And up to that point for me, it was definitely my worst critic. It was not my best friend. And very quickly, she reminded me in that moment, here I'm having this wonderful dream of this woman I could become, taking off in an RV. And she very, very quickly reminded me, you can't do that. There's no way you can make this dream happen. Look at you. You're a mess. You let your whole life fall apart. You have no job. You have no money. What are you, crazy? And then I was like, oh no, yeah, I can't make that happen. But then I remember the Robert Frost quote of two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. And that was
Hmm.
it. I was at a crossroads. Either A, I could take the one road, the one that I had traveled most of my life, the woman that I had been,
Hmm.
with all of the doubts and the fears and the limiting beliefs, or I could choose a new road,
Hmm.
the woman I could become, the woman in that driver's seat, with new thoughts and new beliefs, and actually be the woman I want to be and create the dream life that I wanted.
Hmm.
And here's the thing. I also realized that no matter which road that I decided to take, it would require a ton of effort. And that goes the same for all of us. It always takes effort, no matter which road that you're going to decide to take. And I thought, if I'm going to have to work hard, then I might as well work towards a better life for myself and a better
Hmm.
woman for me and in my relationships and in my career, all of that. So I went for it. And it's fascinating when you finally say yes to yourself and you give yourself permission to love yourself and be yourself, untethered and unhinged and unapologetic, things just line up for you. It's so magical. Without you
Hmm.
having to demand it or ask for it, you'll meet the right person or the right opportunity comes along or you see a sign on the highway. There's things that just happen, they just kind of fall on your lap along the way. And fast forward, so from that moment in front of the mirror, when having that conversation with myself and dreaming of this RV and this badass woman driving it, uh, I got a job offer 4 weeks later in Chicago selling houses, something I had never done in my entire life. But I thought, well, why not? If maybe it's that the leaping point for me, that next dot, if you will, and connecting the dots that will lead me to the next thing. And sometimes we
Hmm.
have to do that. Sometimes we have to live in a place we don't necessarily like, or we have to take a job we don't necessarily want, but you do it and just trust it's going to lead to the next thing. So over two
Hmm.
years, I ended up working extremely hard, always focusing on that dream woman in that driver's seat the entire time. And I ended up, it was crazy. I ended up selling over $45 million in homes in 2 years, sold off or paid off all of that debt and saved up enough money for the RV. I also sought therapy, recovered from the chronic illness, And I did journaling, I did reading, I did all the things.
Hmm.
And then finally, in October of 2021, I took off in that RV across the country. And the rest is
Wow.
history.
What a story. Oh my gosh, there's so much goodness there. So much great
Mm.
stuff to unpack. You are a very brave woman.
Thank you.
I want to go back to, I mean, first of all, my heart goes out to you. Going through
Thank you.
all of those things simultaneously, that that is a true test of your strength, of your courage. So
Mm.
I just honor you for not allowing it to let it, not allowing you to let it pull you down, but
Yes.
instead using it and like the phoenix from the flame, like rising
Yeah.
from the ashes, like using that to catapult you
Yeah.
forward, which I think
Thank
can be, I mean, that in and of itself, that one thing is, I mean, that's the big thing. Because
the
I
big
think this
chunk.
is where a
Yeah.
lot of women we get stuck. We get
Hmm.
stuck in I myself have found I'm 58, so I'm a little older than you are, but just for the very first time, now an empty nester. And this year, which it's like, ooh, it's bitter. It's been bittersweet now. I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, let's go. But I lost my dog back in November
Oh.
and
Oh.
lost my stepfather last year. So it was just like this series of things that unraveled. And in January, after he went off to school, it was like, oh my gosh. And I had been
Yeah.
preparing myself for this. And we have four kids, but it was just that moment of like, what is happening? So I absolutely relate to your journey. Maybe not
Mm.
quite in the same way, but I can relate to that place of everything's falling apart. What is even
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah.
What do you think it was that made that big shift? You mentioned your moment in the mirror,
Hmm.
start visualizing, but what was it that got you to the point of seeing yourself in the driver's seat, of seeing yourself driving cross
Yeah.
country?
Yeah. I think for me at that point, I had nothing to lose. I
Hmm.
mean, I was at rock bottom. And it wasn't too long before that I had watched the movie As Good as It Gets.
Uh,
And I
so
remember
good.
thinking, is this as good as it gets? Like, surely not. And I mean, really at that point, like I said, my brother had just died. He was 49. My first
Mm.
husband actually was 26 when he died.
Oh my goodness.
And I know we say this all the time that life is short. It's so cliche,
Hmm.
but life is short.
Yes.
And even if you rock your blue zones until you're 105, right? It's a
Mhm.
blip of time and eternity. And someday we will all take our last breath. And until then, it's like, oh, just live. And
Mm.
I realized that I was living life for everyone else up until that point. I always put myself on the back burner. I was definitely invisible. I made
Mm.
myself invisible on purpose, and I'll tell you why. And this is something I didn't realize until probably just a couple of years ago. But I was abandoned as a little girl, and because of that, I became a really good perfectionist, people pleaser, approval seeker, codependent, you name it. I was amazing at all of those labels, right? And I did that. I became invisible for myself
Hmm.
so that no one would abandon me.
Mm.
And I was always fearful of that, like not being good enough, not doing all the right things. So it was always like, I was just like, okay, let me do this for you and do this for you. But then, oh yeah, Wendy, what do you want? I never asked myself what I wanted or who I wanted to be, right? But here's the biggest synchronicity out of this entire thing. The biggest epiphany was that I realized I became my greatest fear. That even though I feared
Mm.
everyone abandoning me, really I was abandoning myself.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
look where it got me. Just a completely miserable woman, until 46, 47 years old, right? There's a quote that I absolutely love by Marianne Williamson. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not
Yes.
our darkness, that most frightens us. And I
Yeah.
never really got that quote up until that turning point in my life because I asked myself the question, you know what, Wendy, who would you be and what would you have to do if you fully stepped into your light?
Mm.
And I realized that, yeah, I mean, all of us, I think if we ask ourselves, who would I be and what would I need to do to if I stepped into my light? If I really gave myself permission to step into my light,
Hmm.
because you might have to take a job you don't like. You might have to file those divorce papers. You might have to end some relationships, some toxic relationships. You might have those hard conversations that you're avoiding because, oh, I'm just going to stay because the dark can be kind of comfortable, right? And even at that crossroads for me, I'll admit, staying stuck where I was at actually felt oddly safe because it was familiar. I knew
Hmm.
how to deal with depression or anxiety or all of the drama. It's what I was used to. It was my life up to that point. But to get comfortable with the unknown and the uncertainty and becoming more visible and stepping into that light. Whoo! I mean, I can still think like it's scary, but is it worth it? Good God. And then eventually, what you were scared of or feel fearful of and stepping into that light and becoming more visible becomes comfortable. It's your new thing.
Hmm.
And it's fascinating as you change the the chatter of your inner critic from negative to positive, and you start to step into the shoes of that woman that you want to be, then you eventually you become that woman. It's just you act as if it's like an actress preparing for a role. So the best thing I think all of us can do is to ask ourselves the question, who do I want to be in every aspect of the way, whether it's how you're going to eat, how you're going to move, how do you walk into a room, how do you speak to people, what's your career like, how do you take care of your body, how do you love yourself, how do you speak to yourself. Envision who this woman is, and you just act like her every single day,
Hmm.
and you become her.
Yes. And what are you going to wear?
I know, right?
What are you going to
Definitely
wear?
red.
Because
Definitely
that's
red.
yeah, yes, for you that is your power color. So I want to talk about, what you talked
Mm,
about, and I know your situation and when you were growing up, being a people
mm,
pleaser and being a
mm.
perfectionist. I think that probably rings true with most people listening today at
Yeah.
some point in their lives because we as
Mhm.
women were taught that. We were taught to be people pleasers. We were taught to shrink ourselves and mute ourselves and that it wasn't safe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so let's talk about the tension between feeling that and
Mm.
seeing, okay, what's on the other side? What's on the other
Yeah.
side? What's over there? How did
Mm.
what did that feel like? And how did you actually make that leap?
Great question. The number one thing that I did was to listen to myself,
Mm,
to get quiet enough to shut out the noise, friends, family, society, Instagram. And I started to listen to myself finally. And it was challenging at first because that's when I could hear that critic in my head telling me just horrible, horrible things,
mm,
right? Constantly knocking me down. And I had to become very mindful, very conscious in how I was thinking, how I was moving my body, how I was caring for myself. And I mean, studies do show when you change your identity first, your habits will follow. And I think most of us, we concentrate way too much on the what, when, where, why, and how. We forget about the who. We forget about that little girl that's been lost and stuck in there and covered up, right? Even uh, Bronnie Ware, she wrote the book Top Five Regrets of the Dying. And the
Mhm.
number one regret was living life for everyone else. And many of us do that. We think we're doing the right thing. We're like, oh, well, this is what you're supposed to do. Because if you don't do it, you're selfish. And how dare I do that? And okay. And I think many of us, especially like we raising kids and
Mhm.
careers and house in the burbs, and you're doing all the things. And then you hit midlife, the birdies leave the nest, it gets quieter, and then you're like, okay, now what? And we don't know what to do with ourselves because we don't know who we are because we're chameleons in so many different ways. Because, I mean, we're pretty amazing that we can actually do that. You know, like we can be all the things, but you can't be all things to all people, but you can be all things to yourself.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I mean, I know you know this, but at this season in our life, it's such a spicy season. It's such a great time, right? To really become more visible. And if you look around, I don't know if it's just because it shows up on my feed, but you look around at the women that are in their 40s and 50s and they're just killing it. I'm
Yes.
just like, what we have, I mean, we are not, yeah, this is not our mommy's or our grandma's midlife. We have
No.
this is all new for us, and what a great time to be in it. It's
Mhm.
emerging, and we are emerging, and yeah, it's never too late. You're never too old. Go for it, because why not? Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, Wendy,
yeah.
one thing I talk about is I've coined the term the Great American Timeline. And it's when, we grow up and then we graduate from high school and then we go
Yeah.
to college and then we get married and then we have the kids and we do all the things, we can check all the boxes. And I think so many of us can, especially women, can get lost in that. They're like
Mm-hmm.
reaching for the next goal. Let me check the box. Let me check the box. I just want to get married. I just want to have kids. And it's interesting. I've actually been watching a show. It's set in Uruguay of all places. It's called
Oh,
Envious. And the woman is so envious of everybody who gets married or is having a kid. And she comes to a point where I don't want to give it all away, but she gets to make the decision to do one of those. And she realizes that's not really for me. But she's been
yeah.
chasing this elusive carrot, like this is what I'm supposed to do. And I'm not fulfilled or I'm not the perfect person unless I'm not fulfilled as a woman or I haven't fulfilled my obligation unless I do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And I think all of a sudden at midlife, we're like, what's the next goal? There is no next goal.
yeah.
And
You get
so
to
this
create
is where
new goals.
we kind of go off road. It's like, ooh, we get to reinvent.
Yeah,
But I think a lot of women are so scared because they're
yeah,
not used to hearing their own voices.
yeah, yeah,
Or asking themselves, what do I even want? To self-abandoning and when you don't have anybody
yeah.
else to defer to. What do you see? How do you feel that we can start to tune in, to listen to ourselves and
Yeah.
really understand what we want?
Yeah, it's interesting. I get that question a lot. Like a lot of people, they feel stuck and they don't know what they want. They don't know who they want to be, right? The
Mhm.
cool thing is about midlife is that you're old enough to know what you liked and what you didn't like, what worked and what didn't work, and you're still young enough to do something about it, right?
Mhm.
And I love this analogy of Michelangelo. And when they asked him how he carved the statue of David, he said, I just chipped away at everything that was not him.
Yes.
So all of us need to grab our chisels and start chipping away at the things that are not you, that they're not aligned with you. And you have to be honest with yourself. Is this what I want, or was this what my mom told me I wanted? Or society or culture or religion or Instagram, right? Is this what I want? Is this me? And if you're like grabbing for that chisel, like, no, this is not me. I need to chip that away, right? And even
Mhm.
chipping away at the thoughts that don't serve you, at the beliefs that do not serve you, that are not aligned with you. And the more you chip away at the things that are not you, you uncover that angel in the marble, right? And
Mhm.
especially if you're, by the time you get into your 50s, you're carrying around a lot of heavy marble. Mine was so heavy. I was like, I can't even walk anymore. But I realized I was carrying around my husband's beliefs, my kids' beliefs. I was like, wait, I didn't never even ask myself the question what my values are. I was like, what are my
Mhm.
values? I don't know.
Mhm.
I always had everyone else's values. And I was managing their values, making sure that they were happy with their values. So, yes, you have to just get to the point. I think even for me, I had to get so frustrated with who I was in that moment that it forced me to completely change.
Mhm.
I mean, sometimes, yes, we learn through pain, right? It's not the ideal way, but losses and pain can actually teach you so much about
Mhm.
yourself and about your life. And actually, even in the book, I talk about the lotus. And I was always fascinated with this flower. I don't have any tattoos, but I always
Oh,
said,
I do, and it's
oh, do
got
you
lotus
have? Oh
flowers.
my gosh, that is,
Yes.
stop it. I want
Yeah.
one. But I always said, I was like, if I get a tattoo, it's going to be a lotus. I didn't know why, but for some reason I was
Mhm.
connected to the lotus. Well,
Mhm.
I started looking more into this lotus, into the life of a lotus, right? And the lotus, every night, it sits in the cold, dark mud, and it's all surrounded by this mud. And every morning, when the sun rises, the lotus comes up through the surface of the mud and it blooms and it sits in the sunlight all day long. Now, this is really cool. It's called the lotus effect. It's actually a scientific term that means that there aren't any drops of mud on its petals. So they literally, it rolls right off of the petals. That's why it's always so pretty. It's not covered in mud, right? There's a point to this, and I'll tell you. So then the sun goes down, and so does the lotus, and it shrinks back down into that cold, dark mud every night. The mud, though, actually provides nourishment for the lotus. So just like us, we have we have mud. We have divorce, we have disease, we have death, we have drama, all sorts of things that start with the letter D. And but we have to learn to let that feed us and let that nourish us because that is actually what helps us to bloom and rise to the surface every single day, right? And also to not be wearing it on your pretty on your pretty red clothes, right? To not be wearing it. It's part of you, but it's not you. So it might be beneath you. It's that mud is part of you, but it's not all of you. So you bloom
Mhm.
anyways, you shine despite the mud that you're sitting on.
I love that analogy so
And
much.
that's so cool.
That
I
is
didn't know.
so
Yeah.
beautiful. I
Yeah, the
love that.
lotus. Yeah, y'all look it up. The
That's
lotus
so,
effect.
yes, yes. Yeah, I've
I know.
never really heard about the lotus effect or never really thought about that. I never knew. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, so look for ways to bloom with the mud that you have had that are going to have. I mean,
Hmm.
even the last few months for me, I just lost both of my parents and I lost both of my
Oh,
ovaries too.
oh
So it's
gosh.
been a crazy few months. And the point of me telling you that is that the stronger you become and the more that you embrace life for all that it brings your way.
Mm.
Not to say it's easy, it makes it easier to go through those tough times. And as you know, too, it's right. You had just mentioned, too, you've been through some losses. And the older we get, we end up having more losses. Some of our friends are getting sick, or they might pass away or move away, or we have friendships that end, or our parents are aging, and so much going on. So you are much wiser than you give yourself credit, I am sure. So use that wisdom love yourself more and find the wisdom in the woes because it's definitely there. And it may not hit you right away. So like I've always have a delayed reaction on all of my it's just like it took me 50 plus years to figure out like, oh, I've been abandoning myself. Right. So I couldn't figure that out when I was 10, It took me,
If only they taught us that in middle school.
dang it. I know. But, it is what it is. And then once you do find that wisdom in your woes, like ride that wave, like take advantage of it, soak it up, figure out ways that you can improve in other areas of your life because of that epiphany that you realized.
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. Wendy, I talk so much. I've been teaching style forever, for 20 plus years, and
Yeah.
I believe it is such a strong catalyst for
Mm.
change, for seeing ourselves as our new identity, and for visibility. How has style played a role in your life?
Oh, so
Or
I love that
I
you
should
asked that.
say, how has style played a role through your transformation?
Yeah, so this is interesting. So I've pretty much been an entrepreneur for 25, 30 years, right? And even before my divorce, I owned businesses but I worked from home. I always tried to stay at home with the kids. And the point of me telling you this is I had stay at home working at my desk just like this for a long time, like the sweatpants and the t-shirts, and I'd still go out here and there and I'd have those clothes. And then when I moved to Chicago, I had to go into corporate mode. So I was the high heels and the dresses, which I loved for a while until I needed to have foot surgery. I was like, I don't know about these heels. They look hot, but but then I ended up moving from, I'd lived in 5,000 square foot plus houses down to when I moved into the RV, I sold everything. And I moved to 100 square feet. Y'all, that RV, the size of that RV was the size of my closet that I had in my house. So talk about changing style. I went from, Valentinos to flip-flops in the RV, right? And I actually had someone on the show not too long ago, and she she was saying, she goes, it's true, like you have different seasons in your life where your style might change. And almost think of it like as if you're in a movie and each scene is different, right? Maybe when you go to the coffee shop, you might look a little bit different, or when you're hanging, at home with your family, right? And I'll admit, like when I got into the RV and I was in RV attire, if you will, still cute, still cute. I kind of missed some of those fancier clothes, but then I thought, you know what? I'll still have those moments where I go out to dinner or I go do something or I'm going on television or on a podcast, right? Where I get to dress up and I appreciate it more because I stopped appreciating it when I was working in corporate. Because I was always dressing up every single day to where I was like, ugh. But now I have a blend of things where it's like probably about, I'll admit, about 90 minutes ago, I was in sweatpants and a t-shirt. And now
Well, 90
just
minutes ago, I was in my pajamas, so.
yeah, I know, see, right? You just move in and out of the scenes, right? Like actresses. But um, I've learned though to find things that are practical, that are good for my lifestyle right now. And I still have the RV. It's actually parked in Atlanta right now. Felicia is her name. And so like I pick her up. I always have a home to go back to when I go back to the States. And here in Portugal, it's like pretty much everything's furnished. So I show with my suitcase. And I'm on an island. So obviously it's more like island attire, right? And occasionally going out. So I have so many different types of clothes, but that's me. That's my life right now.
Mhm.
And I think the biggest thing is to embrace where you're at right now. And things can always be replaced. I mean, like I said, I had to get rid of so much stuff. And it's just stuff, and you can always replace it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you
Yeah.
find your style? You mentioned that and I really want to dive into, you said you
Mhm.
started becoming more visible just 2 years ago, which I find that
Yeah.
hard to believe because you're just vibrant and magnetic. Like, how did you possibly stay invisible? But
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
your style evolve? How has your style evolved, and what role do you think that played in your visibility?
I think actually for that first, I have to say, I probably really, officially, I actually have a date and time when I officially really stepped into my spotlight. That would have been on 2/22/22 at 2:22 p.m., which is when I started the Midlife Makeover Show podcast. And that was when I really put myself out there in the world. Like, oh my God, it's official. Here I am, everyone. Right. And, but then I don't know. I think as far as style wise, I've learned what makes me happy. I've learned more of what works for me. I love, like, even today, I'm wearing red just because I was like, ooh, it feels like a red day. I go more with like energy, like if it, I mean, it's amazing, as you know, how colors or a certain outfit will make you feel totally different. If you're having a
Hmm.
crappy day, put on a bright top, right? Like it'll definitely be like, yeah, here I. So yeah, go with what you feel. I know that sounds so corny, but
No, it really doesn't. And one thing
yeah,
I've started saying is that we were taught for so long to ask the question, how do I look? How do I
yeah,
look?
yeah.
How do I look? Right? But if we
Hmm.
can get away from asking that and start asking, how do I feel?
Yes.
Like that's where we turn the focus in towards ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah,
And I think,
definitely. I can remember I went to a retreat at the Chopra Center, and I can remember Deepak Chopra, and he said, "You have to feel your way through life." And I was like, "What the heck does that mean?" And then after I
mm,
thought about it, I was like, "Oh yeah, you do. You kind of feel you're
hmm
like so
yeah,
I
think our way.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Like ask yourself, how does this make me feel? Like, I feel good?
Mhm.
Great.
Yes.
Yeah. And I was going to say too, like even when I did my branding photo shoot, that made a huge difference for me
Mm,
because I was a different woman at that time. I had ended up doing two or three photo shoots,
hmm
for the brand, for the business, and it was designed about for my new life and my new career, and it was so exciting. Like who is this, that woman that I envisioned? And how would she be sitting? How would she be smiling or maybe not smiling? Or what clothes did I want to wear? Because I went shopping and got all new stuff just for the brand photo shoot.
hmm
That was such a blast because I was literally showing up as this new woman that I had become, which was so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What did
Mm.
becoming more visible require of you? What did you need to do to really, other than I know you did the branding photo shoot, but what else did it require from you?
Mm, I think again, it was probably decluttering the emotional and physical stuff that I had going on. The more and more that I shed that, the more of me actually had shined through, right? It was just a natural thing. The more I got rid of all of that darkness in my life, then more light came about. So, and it was, it definitely wasn't easy, between just doing therapy and doing yoga and my meditation and journaling and reading every self-help book in the world just to get me, out of that dark place in my life to bring me to the point where I was like, "Ah, I'm ready." But I was still scared. I was still
Mhm.
nervous. But I think you leap and the net will appear, right?
Absolutely.
And you're the net. Just you need to trust yourself that you'll figure it out. And for someone that, again, was a perfectionist, I used to always have everything perfectly planned out before I even took a step.
Mm,
But then I gave myself permission to get messy. And it's in it's in those messy moments when you're figuring this stuff out, that's the victory right there.
yes.
Those are like, okay, pat yourself on the back. I didn't know how to drive an RV, but I figured it out, right? And it was these tiny little victories, these where it was like, oh my God, I just backed the RV in by myself. Like I did that, just cool little things and it's new and it's different. And as you're doing all of these things, like you're growing, you're evolving, and you're making so many changes internally, externally, where you're becoming a new person and you don't even realize it.
Yes. Yeah. So
Yeah.
tell us more about, so you went to sell real estate and you
Yeah.
made enough money to buy the RV. Tell us,
Yeah.
like, how did you get started with the traveling, the make the leap from, okay, now I've got enough money. Is this like, did you have a moment where you're like, am I really going to do this?
Yes, I did. And it took me months I had to, I went through my place, getting rid of everything. I ended up like all those clothes I gave to some charities and stuff like that. And then I had it organized where it was like I saved maybe about 15 boxes that went into storage, and then all of my furniture went to my son. He was actually moving. I was like, hey, you're actually going to get all my furniture. So I shipped him all of my furniture. And that actually made me feel good. It wasn't like I was throwing everything away. It was everything was going to someone that could appreciate it, right? And I can remember sitting there in that empty apartment in Chicago, and I was surrounded by boxes, and I had everything, of course, perfectly labeled of stuff that was going to go in the RV, right? My clothes, pots and pans, stuff like that. And the next day, I was supposed to be I was supposed to be flying from Chicago to Nashville to pick up the RV. And I thought, should I do this? I was like, I don't have to do it, because at that point I had kind of gotten to a good place and like, I don't have to. Then I thought, if I don't do this, this will be my only regret. Because then I would have never known and I wouldn't be sitting here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So once you did it, once you boarded that plane and you picked up the RV, what changed for you in terms of your identity, your visibility, and what led you to start the podcast?
Yeah. So, yeah, actually, I flew to Nashville on a Friday, bought the RV on a Saturday, drove it back on Sunday, and I quit my job on Monday. It was like, boom, 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 let's go. So, about 6 to 8 months prior to that moment, I was listening to a podcast. It was Kathy Heller, and she had Stephanie Gass on her show. And Stephanie Gass and I was still kind of like shockingly, I mean, that was a few years ago, and I hadn't really, I'll admit, listened to very many podcasts and just happened to listen to hers. And she was talking about how, getting unstuck. And if you're not sure what you want to do, and she was strongly encouraging, start a podcast. Like, that's the way to go. And I thought, you can actually just start your own show. I was like, interesting. And I had never considered it before. Always wanted to be an actress, always wanted to have my own show or do something. I thought, I could start a podcast and then I could become a writer and then just cruise around in the country in my RV. I was like, okay. So I hired Stephanie Gass for a consult. And within that 30 minutes, we came up with the Midlife Makeover Show. And we did because she was like, well, what are you interested in? Tell me more about you. And I'd tell her my story. And she's like, oh my gosh. She's like, you can completely made over your midlife. And I was like, yeah, I guess I did. And she's like, there's your show. I was like, oh. And you know it too. If anyone out there is like thinking of making a leap into something, trust your gut, go with what works for you because I had so many people telling me, niche down, you need something like very specific of what you're going to talk about. Da, da, da. I was like, but I want to talk about everything. I was like, I want to talk about divorce and menopause and relationships. I want an empty nest. I want to talk about all of it. I was like, so I'm going to stick with that. And I had so many people telling me, like business people, all of them, they're like, no, you can't do that. And I did it anyways. And I'm so glad because I love the fact that I can talk about, hormones on one day and relationships the next, right? Because that works for me. So you have to listen to yourself, listen what's going to work for you. But yeah, I would have my day job, work, go to my day job, and then at night I'd start working on my dream business. I started designing the Midlife Makeover Show. And then yeah, and then in February 22nd, 2022 at 2:22 p.m., that's when it all started.
I
And it's
love
been
it.
just crazy ever since.
Yeah. So as you've stepped into your visibility, did it feel like it all just happened at once? Was it gradual? What was that like for you?
It was definitely gradual, but I felt like once I really got into it and the momentum was cranking, I
Hmm.
just kept rolling with it. And again, just like I said earlier, it's when you finally say yes to yourself, things will just fall into your lap and they just keep going and keep going. And even, it wasn't, I think it was about 10 months after I started the podcast that out of the crazy blue, I get an email from a large publisher asking if I would write them a book about midlife. And I totally, like, if I had not taken that leap to start the podcast, they would have never called. They would have never emailed me. I ended up not going with that publisher, and I went with a different one. But that's when you just have to trust the process, trust the unknown. You're not going to know everything. You're not, but that's the cool part.
Yes. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that. And I mean, it's just, I think it's so fascinating. Like once you decide to
Yeah.
become visible and you shift your identity, like what you mentioned earlier, like opportunities just open up. Things just, it's like, oh,
Yes.
where has that been? Where
Yeah.
has that been hiding? We just haven't been able to see it.
Yeah.
We just haven't been able to shift ourselves to notice things. We've been so
Mm-hmm.
focused on, what should I do and being perfect and censoring
Yep.
ourselves that we
And it's
don't notice.
exhausting, right? It's
It is
exhausting trying
exhausting.
to manage all of the no's, and it's a lot. And just take a deep breath and say yes.
Hmm. Have you ever had to deal with imposter syndrome?
Oh, for sure.
Say more.
I mean, I think pretty much my whole life. I don't anymore though. I think once you do what you love, when you love it, and I love what I do. Like it's such a great, it's so great that I can actually say that now.
Hmm.
And when you love what you do, then yes, you don't question it. You don't care if, I mean, I get naysayers and negative Nellies on Instagram all the time. I'm just like, whatever. I'm having a good time. Just keep going at it. But no, I think imposter syndrome, no, you need to remind yourself how great you are all the time. Really pay attention to how you're speaking to yourself. I mean, I think about like when you're watching the news, right? And the ticker tape is going across the screen. That's like the inside of your mind, right? There's all
Mm.
those thoughts just like, and you get to choose your news channel, right? You get to choose the news that's going across on that ticker tape on the inside of your mind. And choose happy news, choose positive news. And if you catch, and you will, we're always going to have negative thoughts because our brains are negative, bias, right? That's just how we are as human beings. We look for the negativity so to protect ourselves, right? But you have that power to actually shift that negativity into positivity at any moment. And the more that you do it, the better you get at it. And I still do that. I mean, throughout the day, I'll be like, "Ooh, I catch it. I'm like, no, 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 we are not going there. Nope.
Mhm.
Mm-mm. Nope, not doing it." And it
Yes.
and yeah, you're able to recover quicker from that critic that is trying to dish stuff out to you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I just notice my mind. I'm like, that's just my mind. And
Yeah.
I just notice and I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Like, where did that
exactly.
come from? But like, oh no, I'm not going to listen to that.
I know. It's silly, isn't
It is
it?
silly. It is silly.
Yeah.
Wendy,
I know.
I
Yeah.
for the woman right now who, or for the woman who is listening and may feel
Mm,
lost or feels like she's disconnected from herself or she has this feeling of like there's more out there. What
yeah.
would you want her to know about reinvention at midlife?
It's possible. Give yourself a chance because you deserve that chance. You're never too old. It's never too late. And the world needs you. The world needs you to be visible. We need you to shine. The ladies need you. Need you out there. Yes.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah. And it's
Yes.
fun, right? It's fun when you really, really step into the light. Oh my gosh, it's fun. It's such a blast
Yeah. Why do you believe that midlife is such a great time for reinvention?
because we're much wiser than we used to be. And we've done all the checking of the boxes. Check, check,
Mhm.
kids, career, marriage, house in the burbs. Check, check, check. It's my time.
It's my time.
It's my
Well,
time,
it's
dang it.
my
And I'm
time. You
gonna
hear that,
rock the
ladies? It is
sucker.
our time.
Yes, yes. Have fun
Oh.
with it. Yeah.
Wendy, this has been such a delight to talk to you. Is there
Thank
anything
you.
you'd like to leave with our listeners before we wrap up?
Yeah, just love yourself. I know that sounds so cheesy. I'm okay with that, but love yourself through the good days and the bad days and happy and sad and just keep loving yourself. Put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you put that onto others. Take care of yourself and just trust that you're going to figure everything out and it's going to be amazing.
Yes. Now tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, best place is wendyvalentine.com. That's the main hub where you can have all sorts of fun on there. Instagram is at Hello Wendy Valentine, and the book Women Waking Up is sold everywhere. Books are sold, Amazon, and there's over $500 in bonuses that comes with the book. So all sorts of good stuff, meditations and a playbook and a digital vision board, which is a blast. So yeah,
Mhm.
lots of good stuff, but basically wendyvalentine.com.
Awesome. And I'll drop all those links in the show notes. So be sure to check out her book, check
Thank
out her
you.
podcast, and definitely follow her on Instagram. Wendy,
Yeah.
thank you so much. This has been such a wonderful conversation, and I've so
Thank
enjoyed talking to you.
thank you, everyone. I hope you have an amazing day. Make sure you come listen to Michelle on my podcast
Yeah.
too.